Hey, this is Anna Bevan Gravely with NCFREE, and I am joined by Judge Jeff Carpenter, who is running for Court of Appeals this year. Thanks so much for joining us. Is there anything that you'd like to share with our audience before we get started?
Thanks, Anna, for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be interviewed by you guys and share a little bit of information about me. Just a little bit of background. I grew up in rural Anson County. It's sort of economically depressed. Went to the public schools there, graduated from high school, went to Wingate College for a year, then to UNC at Charlotte, where I graduated with a political science degree. And then I went to the North Carolina Highway Patrol as a state trooper for 6 years. After being on the Highway Patrol for 6 years, I went to Campbell Law School and obtained my law degree. And that's when, after I finished law school, passed the bar, I went and sort of started my own business. We hung out a shingle and went to work practicing law. And fortunately, because of our business plan and how we did business, we operated from the black from day one, which was good. And got involved in some other business interest in real estate and things like that. And so it's the path that I've traveled to be before you today as a judge is unique. And then after practicing law for 13 years, I was a litigator. I was a courtroom lawyer. Whatever needed to be tried, whether it was domestic, criminal defense, general civil litigation, whatever it was, I would try those cases. And then I got a call and asked if I would consider being Superior Court judge. And through prayerful consideration, here I am.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. We're just going to dive into the questions.
Okay.
Which one of the current or recent U.S. Supreme Court justices best reflects your judicial philosophy?
I'm not sure how broad the term recent is, so I'll use two.
Up to you to judge.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Yep.
Justice Scalia was a favorite of mine simply because of his approach to the law. And Justice Thomas, of our current justices, is probably as close as it comes to my thought process on the law. And basically, Justice Scalia and Justice Thomas both believe that the law says what it says, means what it says, but importantly, it doesn't say what it doesn't say. Basically, they're textualists and constitutionalists.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the Supreme Court justices that I most identify with in regards to my approach to the law.
And so you touched on this just a smidge, but if you wanted to expand, what is how would you describe your judicial philosophy?
Well, basically that the law says what it says and means what it says. Yeah. It's not the judge's job to make the law. That's the legislature's role. The judge's job is to read the law that the legislature has enacted and apply that law. Mm-hmm. Importantly, it's not the judge's job to say, well, the legislature said this, but they really meant that. That's a legislative matter that needs to be taken up in the legislature. The judge's role, the court's role should be, look, we think the law is bad law, but it is the law. And if the legislature wants to come back and change it, they have the right to do that. And the truth is, once it gets in the jurisprudence of our state, it lasts a long time. It's hard to undo that. But a legislature can change the law every 2 years, and we can change the entire legislature in North Carolina every 2 years by going to the ballot box. So there's quite a bit of accountability for the legislature, not as much from the judicial branch. Therefore, my philosophy is the legislature ought to make the law, judges ought to apply the law as it's been enacted.
Yeah, it's funny you say that the legislature is up every 2 years. And I was talking to my mom not too long ago, and I was explaining to her that all of the members were up for election or re-election. And she was shocked. She was like, what do you mean all of them? And I was like, well, Mom, they're up every 2 years. She goes, well, they barely even learned where the bathroom is by then. And I was like, Correct. Well, it's not Congress. It's a little smaller. But that just made me laugh that she can be so ingrained, and so many people are ingrained that they just miss a whole bunch of what's in front of them. But thanks.
Folks don't really understand the difference between the federal system and the state system. In the state system, we can replace 100% of our legislators every 2 years if we want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With no one new coming back. So there's a possibility that everyone could come in and no one would know where the bathroom is.
Except for the lobbyists. They would know.
The lobbyists and the staff people.
Yep. Well, how would you describe free enterprise?
Well, probably you've already figured this out about me. I'm sort of a free enterprise guy. I think that the free market will work, and it will self-regulate through competition and demand of its customer base. And I think government would probably be well served to stay out of the business of business and let business do business and not try to govern business. Certainly, there's constraints on that in regards to certain environmental issues that would be. I mean, you don't want to cut all the trees down and have no one go back and replant them. But the truth is the free market works there because after you cut all the trees down, you want to make that money again, say 30 or 40 years down the road. So you replant. Mm-hmm. So the free enterprise system will work if government will get out of its way. And that's sort of my thought on free enterprise. Smaller government is better.
Awesome. Thank you. What kind of interests, jobs, volunteer activities did you have during school and in law school?
Well, for the most part, I was an old guy in law school. So it was a sort of a unique law school experience. For me, I had been on the highway patrol for 6 years. I left by high school pay standards. I left a pretty good paying job to go to law school to take a chance as to whether or not I'd pass the bar. Turns out it worked out. But my wife and I sort of scrounged and lived quite lean during law school. So I didn't do a whole lot. I ran, lifted weights some, I hunted some, and I did some internships with some law firms. It's unique because I was a litigator in practice. I ended up doing internships with a law firm that did estate matters, which has nothing to do with the courthouse. And I also did a internship with a real estate attorney, which also has nothing to do with the courtroom. And maybe that's why I didn't go into real estate. But once I started practicing law, one of the most rewarding things that I did that was not for profit was I represented the guardian ad litem, represented abused and neglected children through the guardian ad litem program. And it cost me money to do that, but it was very rewarding to be able to go in and give those neglected and abused children a voice in court with a lawyer that was comfortable in the courtroom.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. That's a lot of a wide variety of things and activities. That's awesome. So what's been your greatest accomplishment in your legal career and your personal life?
In my personal life, my greatest accomplishment is convincing my wife to stay for 25 years. It's a unique story. We met in highway patrol school. Ooh. And we were friends. We got stationed together, and we were friends for about a year and a half and became best of friends and started dating after that. And almost 25 years later, I have continued to woo her sufficiently to keep her. And I told her if she got ready to leave, I was going with her. So make sure there was room. But my wife has been a true blessing. She's been my rock. That's one of the greatest accomplishments is getting out of my own way and realizing the treasure that I had in her. And we have a wonderful 14-year-old son that is a quick wit intellectual. He's a character. Not an athlete, despises sports for some reason, but he'll read a dozen books in a day if you'll let him. And his vocabulary far exceeds his mother's and his father's. But from a personal perspective, my most pride is in the family that we've built together and the phenomenally good relationship that we continue to share. And I say that because I did quite a bit of domestic work, and I've seen not good relationships, and I've seen good relationships. And I'm, in my opinion, we've been able to create and maintain a very good relationship.
Mhm.
In regards to professional life, I built a very profitable law firm. My partner and I went into business out of law school, knowing nothing about practicing law and knowing very little about business. And we learned a lot of lessons the hard way. But I also learned that it's okay to not have to learn all the lessons the hard way. What that means is I learned pretty quick that I could call other folks that had made mistakes in the past and say, hey, I'm dealing with this issue. What are your thoughts, or have you ever dealt with it? And sort of create a de facto mentoring program for myself just by calling and asking questions. But that law firm that we built turned out to be the premier law firm in town, and was very profitable. So that's, in my professional life, that law firm that we built and the profitability we were able to create there was, especially in the county that we were in, was the most the professional accolade that I would say I'm proud of.
Yeah, awesome. And what is your vision for the future of our judicial system? What changes would you advocate, and why?
Well, I would advocate that we as a group, when I say we as a group, I mean the entire judiciary, the Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, the Superior Court, which is where I am now, and the District Court, take up a judicial philosophy where we don't make the law, we just follow the law as enacted. And, you know, it was frustrating as a practitioner to read cases that came back from the Court of Appeals. And as I'm reading the cases, I would say to myself, obviously no one on this panel has ever practiced law in a real courtroom. And believe it or not, there's a lot of the judges on the Court of Appeals that have no courtroom experience. Although every case that gets there starts in a trial court somewhere, most of them have no courtroom experience. And that's important because if we don't apply the law as it's written, then litigants and lawyers lose the predictability that ought to be inherent in the judicial system. It's got to be predictable in order to make decisions, especially from a business perspective. If you're in business and this issue that may come up in the development of a business area has already been settled in the court system, you need to have confidence that that's going to continue to be the law as you move forward. If you don't have that predictability, why would you come to this state? Why wouldn't you go to some other state that has that predictability inherent in their judicial system? So I think it's crucially important to build that the predictability that comes from following law and settled precedent, and not making it or changing it as you go forward based on emotion or personal feelings. Because the truth is, if a judge starts making decisions on personal feelings, you're no longer neutral. At that point, you become involved in the case. You have a stake in the outcome if it's personal to you or if you're making emotional decisions. The law should be unemotional, and the outcome that you arrive at as a judge, even if you don't personally agree with it, shouldn't change. It should follow the law and what the law dictates. So I think that there's an issue that maybe through the changing of judicial philosophy, just talking with your colleagues, I think that there may be an opportunity there to sort of settle some of those or smooth out some of those wrinkles. And, you know, there's the Court of Appeals in particular, there's most of the cases that resolve on appeal resolve in the Court of Appeals. Very few of the cases that go to the Court of Appeals end up going to the Supreme Court. So the folks that have matters in front of the Court of Appeals need to have confidence that that court will uphold the law as everybody believes the law is, based on precedent or based on statute. And I think that's crucially important. The Court of Appeals is currently comprised of 15 judges. They serve 8-year terms. They're elected. which is different than, some states do appointments. A federal bench does appointments, and those are lifetime appointments. We do 8-year elective terms, and it's a general election. I mean, it's not a recall or anything like that. It's you run for your seat every 8 years. Excuse me. So the wide variety of cases that we get at the Court of Appeals, I mean, you may have domestic cases, equitable distribution, alimony, child custody, child support, things like that go. You've got criminal cases from misdemeanors to felonies. The only thing that doesn't go to the Court of Appeals out of the criminal realm is capital murder cases. They go straight to the Supreme Court. And then you've got business and banking cases that go in there. You've got real estate litigation cases that end up in the Court of Appeals. And the vastness of the issues that are addressed there is just mind-boggling. And because of the makeup of the court, I think that probably there would be an opportunity to pick judges that have expertise in a certain area. For example, if you have a career criminal litigator and you have criminal cases, that career criminal litigator is probably best suited to sit on that panel and sort of guide the others. If it's a complex banking case, and Chris Dillon, for example, comes from a real estate, he's running this time, comes from a real estate and banking background. If you've got a complicated real estate or banking case, he would probably be a guy that you'd want on that panel. And I think that there may be an opportunity to, instead of just randomly selecting judges to sit on a panel and then handing them a bunch of cases, maybe there's an opportunity to craft the assignments of the cases based on the skill set of the particular judge. And I think that may result in better outcomes and less overturned cases on appeal.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. This has been great. I've loved learning more about you and your judicial philosophy. And where can our members go to learn more about you?
A couple places. There's Facebook and Twitter, obviously. Judge Jeff Carpenter on Facebook and at Keep Jeff Carpenter on Twitter. And then the website is electjeffcarpenter.com. And it's got a bio on me and lots of other intricate information that you probably didn't get in this interview. But I've really enjoyed being with you, Anna. I appreciate the opportunity to spend a little time with you.
Great. Awesome. Well, enjoy the rest of your day and have good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.